Is the UFC's biggest star power on the verge of collapsing under its own weight, or is something far bigger brewing behind the scenes? One moment, you have an explosive champion who seems to carry the entire promotion on his shoulders. The next, a lesser-known contender snatches the spotlight in a showdown that feels anything but satisfying, at least for many fans. Yet if you look closer, you'll find that this latest upset might be part of a much larger story unfolding in the world's most iconic mixed martial arts organization. It's not every day that a champion with the aura of a mythic warrior suddenly loses in a bout that fans describe as lackluster. In a single night, the man everyone believed was unstoppable found himself dethroned by a challenger who, up until now, hadn't even appeared on most people's radar. Tonight, we're diving into the chain of events that led to a huge shakeup in the sport. We'll expose the backstage dynamics that allow the UFC to keep rolling in profits, even in an era where superstars are harder and harder to come by. We'll reveal what fighters like Justin Gaethje are facing in a division now clouded by uncertainty, and explore why some fans think the promotion itself might be playing a deeper game than we realize. If you've been craving a narrative full of hidden agendas, shattered hype trains, unexpected comebacks, and a few rumors that could reshape the industry, stick around, because the truth behind this title, upset, and the bigger picture surrounding it just might alter your entire outlook on what being a UFC champion really means. For months, Alex Pereira seemed like the single brightest light in a division that desperately needed star power. He wasn't just another champion, he was a singular talent who walked into the octagon with the swagger of someone who had already conquered half the planet. His intimidating presence, highlighted by razor-sharp striking and that stone-faced stare, gave him an aura fans couldn't get enough of. Between highlight reel finishes and relentless trash talk from observers who believed he was unstoppable, Pereira came to embody the idea of a champion who existed on a higher plane than everyone else. His ascent in the UFC was swift and undeniably electrifying. Critics often remarked, "We've never seen someone quite like him." He had a unique background that made him intriguing. Successful in one combat sport, then crossing over into another with alarming ease. He breathed new life into a division that, for a short period, struggled to maintain the kind of star-drawing power that Conor McGregor or Ronda Rousey once commanded. While the UFC is no stranger to confident, flamboyant champions, Pereira's rise was accompanied by an almost mythical quality. Fans whispered that he was a destiny fighter, a man seemingly fated to claim greatness in multiple weight classes. Such hype only grows when you add in social media fandom. Every time Pereira stepped into the cage, hashtags trended, and highlight clips went viral in minutes. Online communities buzzed about his training regimens and his surprising composure under pressure. People argued over whether he'd surpass the legacies of other major champions. Some believed he could dominate for years, moving up or down weight classes to collect belts like trophies. Others felt he was only human, and that a single well-prepared opponent could unravel him if they exploited the right weakness. In the end, though, it wasn't just the highlight reels or the social media arguments that cemented his star status. It was his ability to create a genuine sense of anticipation. Every fight, every face-off, every public appearance dripped with the possibility of something extraordinary. Fans paid for tickets not just to watch a UFC event, but to witness the next page in his legend. For the UFC, this was marketing gold, and for Pereira, it seemed like the beginning of an era that could last as long as he wanted it to. Then came Magomed Ankalaev. Unlike Pereira, Magomed Ankalaev lacked the immediate magnetism that turns casual viewers into superfans. His style was clinical, sometimes deemed boring by those who craved highlight reel knockouts and flamboyant personalities. He didn't own the flashy social media presence that sets tongues wagging, nor did he market himself as the next unstoppable force. Yet behind the relatively modest persona was a record so impressive it became hard to ignore. Ankalaev's undefeated streak since his UFC debut loss was proof enough that he was a real menace in the division. He racked up victory after victory, dispatching tough opponents with a precision that left many insiders murmuring that he might be the real future champion. Journalists who studied the sport recognized his ground game as a lethal trap, and his striking as a puzzle few fighters managed to solve. Still, the broader fandom stayed indifferent to his methodical approach. He wasn't the type to hop on a microphone and spew trash talk for an hour. He let his in-cage performances speak for him. Sometimes a fighter like Ankalaev hovers below the mainstream radar until they break through with one pivotal victory. Hardcore fans and analysts nod in agreement that, yes, this is a serious contender, but the average viewer might glance over his record and say, "Who's that again?" As the division navigated hype trains and marquee matchups, Ankalaev steadily chipped away at the competition, unconcerned with how many pay-per-views he sold. For him, it was about becoming the best in the world, something that resonates deeply with purists of the sport. Yet there was a rumbling in the background. Rumors of backstage frustration at how the promotion was handling his rise. Some fans speculated that the UFC was holding off on giving him big opportunities because he wasn't the flashy personality needed to draw millions of eyeballs. Others believed the matchmakers were simply waiting for the perfect moment to introduce him to a broader audience. Regardless, the tension built. Who was this man, and when would he finally get the recognition he deserved? All it would take was the right fight at the right time. Then came his chance against Pereira, the star with sky-high marketing power. Many watchers assumed Pereira would blow right through him, citing his unstoppable reputation and highlight finishes. They assumed Ankalaev's methodical style couldn't compete with Pereira's flair. But the man lurking in the shadows doesn't always remain in the dark forever. Sometimes the perfect moment arrives and everything changes. The night of the big showdown arrived with an electric energy. Fans across the globe tuned in, expecting either a triumphant defense by the unstoppable Pereira, or at worst, a competitive fight that still ended with him on top. Instead, what they got was a result that felt shocking not just because of who won, but because of how the victory occurred. There was no highlight reel knockout, no dramatic submission. Instead, the main event ended in a decision that left half the audience unsure of how to react. Commentators struggled to capture the mood in real time. Some were convinced that it was closer than expected, while others claimed Ankalaev had clearly outworked Pereira, showcasing strategy and skill that neutralized the champion's strengths. And then there were the fans, those who paid for tickets or bought the pay-per-view specifically to see Pereira magic. They found themselves blindsided by a methodical performance that didn't deliver the same fireworks as the champion's previous fights. Some called it boring, others labeled it technical. But nearly everyone agreed that it felt like the air had been let out of the arena. Controversy ignited almost immediately. Online, countless theories sprang up. Some alleged that Pereira had an off night due to undisclosed injuries, while others guessed that personal issues outside the octagon must have distracted him. A few fans whispered about rumored friction with coaches or last-minute changes in game plans. Conspiracy theories ran wild. Could there have been a secret deal? Was the UFC behind it? Wild speculation overshadowed any clear consensus. Yet the simplest explanation might have been the hardest to accept. Maybe Pereira just lost to a better fighter that night. What made this moment feel especially jarring for fans was the sense of an unfinished story. Pereira's star status was built on spectacle, but his dethroning arrived without any real spectacle at all, just a judge's scorecard that placed Ankalaev as the new champion. The result sparked fierce debate. Is this how a star's run is supposed to end? In the blink of an eye, the unstoppable champion had been stopped by a fighter many labeled unmarketable, even dull. It left a bittersweet taste for countless MMA enthusiasts who had been relishing Pereira's stratospheric rise. Yet as we'll see, the UFC machine seemed far from concerned. The UFC is a juggernaut, a sporting behemoth backed by multi-million-dollar deals and global brand recognition. It's no secret that Dana White, the face of the organization, doesn't lose sleep over minor dips and bumps in star power. When Pereira lost the belt, plenty of fans assumed the promotion would be in panic mode. After all, losing a lucrative champion typically means losing significant pay-per-view buys, merchandise sales, and mainstream publicity. But if the post-fight press conference was any indication, Dana White wasn't even breaking a sweat. Why would he be worried? Despite the evident scarcity of larger-than-life superstars at the moment, the UFC continues to report record profits. Their partnerships, whether it's with massive media conglomerates or streaming services vying for exclusive broadcasting rights, pour in revenue that dwarfs whatever short-term loss might come from a champion losing. Media insiders even suggest that upcoming negotiation deals could push the UFC's profitability to new heights, with or without a charismatic champion at the helm. This isn't the first time we've seen the UFC roll with the punches. When Ronda Rousey lost her belt, many predicted the end of a profitable era. When Conor McGregor stepped away for long stretches, critics said pay-per-views would plummet irreparably. Time and again, the promotion found ways to market fresh faces, hype new matchups, and keep the show rolling at a profitable clip. The UFC has proven it can package and sell even lesser-known fighters as long as there's a compelling storyline, a trait that ensures the brand identity overshadows any single fighter's fame or downfall. In the hours and days following Pereira's defeat, backstage rumors indicated that the UFC might have already had contingency plans. Some insiders spoke of immediate rematch clauses or even interim titles to keep interest high. Others speculated that the promotion might pivot to marketing Ankalaev in a new light, perhaps showcasing him as an unstoppable dark horse who was unjustly ignored for so long. Whatever the plan, the bottom line is simple. The UFC sees no reason to panic over star power. The brand has become an unstoppable marketing machine that can adapt to any champion's rise or fall. While the UFC machine carried on, fans were left coping with a sense of whiplash. One moment, they had a champion whose highlight reels and stoic demeanor were the talk of every MMA forum. The next, the belt was in the hands of someone many considered uninteresting. Social media lit up with pleas for an immediate rematch. "We want Pereira back where he belongs." Some fans argued that a champion as electrifying as Pereira deserved a second chance, especially when the fight's decision felt so underwhelming. Others voiced concerns that the light heavyweight division might slump into monotony. Their fear was rooted in memories of past champions who were technical, yet lacked the showmanship that captures wide audiences. Will the division lose casual viewers? That's a question the UFC usually tries to bury under hype packages and endless promotions, but for many fans it was a genuine worry. Mixed martial arts, after all, is about more than who's the best. It's also about the spectacle, the emotional roller coaster, and the personalities that keep people invested. A vocal segment of the community went a step further, blaming the UFC for not doing enough to protect Pereira as a star. They pointed to the matchmakers giving him a tough opponent in Ankalaev, someone with a skill set specifically designed to neutralize Pereira's striking. Some conspiracy-minded individuals insisted it was all part of a grander plan to keep the belt rotating, fueling controversies that drive more clicks and discussion. Others just shrugged and said, "That's the fight game." Still, the emotional discontent was clear. Fans wanted closure or at least a chance for redemption. Many argued that the best thing for everyone involved, especially the division's popularity, would be to schedule an immediate rematch. And so, the tension built. Would Pereira get another shot at reclaiming his spot among the UFC's pantheon of champions? Or would the powers that be shuffle him aside in favor of the new champion's reign? The answers would soon swirl around another star in limbo, though, someone who, surprisingly, found himself in a similarly confusing spot. Amid the light heavyweight chaos, Justin Gaethje, a man once known for his explosive style and near-constant presence in highlight reels, found himself in a peculiar predicament. He secured a decisive victory in his most recent fight, seemingly propelling him toward a title shot, or at least another high-stakes matchup. Yet as soon as his hand was raised, reality hit. The lightweight division is as tangled as ever, with countless contenders jockeying for position, unexpected rematches being teased, and rumors of new challengers suddenly skipping the line. Gaethje's own words in post-fight interviews revealed a man uncertain about his next move. Some fans believed he deserved an immediate crack at Islam Makhachev's belt, especially after proving himself repeatedly in wars that left audiences at the edge of their seats. But the promotional waters are murky. Islam's star power remains a question mark for many fans. Some see him as a regionally huge draw, while others don't think he has the broad global appeal to carry major events. As a result, the entire title picture at 155 pounds feels like a shifting puzzle, with different pieces constantly changing shape. Adding more confusion, rumors persisted that multiple fighters, including rising star Ilia Topuria, might decide to move up in weight or angle for a different fight altogether. Gaethje, known for his resilience and crowd-pleasing style, seemed stuck between wanting a direct path to the title and acknowledging the chaotic reality. The UFC often makes decisions based on marketability as much as merit. Some fans worried he'd be pitted against lower-ranked opposition in a high-risk, low-reward scenario, potentially derailing his chance at championship gold. Online speculation grew. Was Gaethje on the brink of a new era or a painful waiting game? Mixed martial arts is filled with stories of contenders forced to wait longer than they should, only to lose their momentum when the moment finally arrives. For a warrior like Gaethje, who's always said he wants to leave everything in the cage, fight after fight, time is as valuable as any belt. If the UFC can't line up a bout that captures the public's imagination, it risks losing another big draw to frustration. All the while, fans are left pondering whether the next major star might slip through the cracks before ever getting their shot. With Pereira dethroned and Ankalaev now standing at the top of the division, the million-dollar question becomes, what happens next? Dana White alluded to a possible rematch, a move that could appease the disappointed fans who desperately want to see Pereira regain his glory. If that match is booked, it instantly ignites the conversation all over again. Was Pereira simply off his game? Or does Ankalaev truly have his number? Even if an immediate rematch doesn't materialize, the speculation alone stirs excitement in a division that was once considered lacking in star power. Some insiders wonder if the UFC might pivot to other contenders like Jan Blachowicz or Gigi to further shake up the title picture. It's no secret that a belt rotating through multiple fighters can make for riveting narratives. One minute you're champion, the next you're a dark horse again. That sense of unpredictability might actually help the UFC hold the attention of fans who love the chaos that only MMA can deliver. Yet the big worry persists. Will Ankalaev resonate with casual audiences, or will he forever remain an elite fighter without the mainstream following needed for massive pay-per-view numbers? The UFC might try to craft a new narrative around him, marketing him as the unassuming champion who quietly dismantles every challenger. They could pair him with the right opponents and build entire events around the question, Can anyone dethrone this technical wizard? But if the fans don't bite, the division risks falling into obscurity for as long as Ankalaev remains on top. That's why so many people are clamoring for Pereira's swift return. His presence alone can elevate a fight card, and his potential redemption arc against the man who beat him might be too compelling to resist. The drama of a dethroned champion battling to reclaim his belt is the stuff epic sports stories are made of. If the rematch happens, the tension will be through the roof. What if he fails again? And if he succeeds, will the hype around him skyrocket to an even higher level, solidifying him as the unstoppable star he was once believed to be? Beyond the straightforward storyline of champions and contenders, the MMA world buzzes with rumors and controversies that add extra layers of intrigue. Whispers about doping accusations surface periodically, though no concrete evidence against any of the top fighters has been publicly confirmed. Some fans question whether certain training camps might push the boundaries of what's legal, referencing old controversies where notable fighters tested positive or faced hush-hush suspensions. Officially, the UFC claims it works closely with USADA to keep the sport clean, but conspiracies and speculation never entirely go away. There are also quiet discussions about locker room negotiations and disputes over fighter pay. Could these behind-the-scenes tensions play a role in matchups being delayed or champions losing focus? People sometimes point to rumored contract issues that forced other big-name fighters to sit out key fights or accept conditions they weren't thrilled about. Whenever a major upset happens, it doesn't take long for fans to connect the dots. Maybe so-and-so fighter was secretly unhappy with the UFC. Maybe the champion was forced into an unfavorable schedule, or maybe certain training partners parted ways at a critical moment. Another point of controversy is how the UFC's rapid global expansion affects both established veterans and up-and-coming talents. As the promotion pours resources into new markets, fans speculate that the UFC might steer certain events and matchups to places where they can maximize revenue. Could that mean some champions are gently nudged into fights that best serve the promotion's bottom line, rather than the sanctity of the rankings? Many MMA purists grumble that the sport side of the UFC is overshadowed by the entertainment side, leading to matchmaking decisions driven by marketing angles rather than athletic merit. All these swirling debates add depth to the recent title upheaval. When Pereira lost, conspiracy theorists instantly claimed it was orchestrated to create drama. Others insisted it was purely organic. This is fighting. Anything can happen. In truth, the real story likely sits somewhere between the extremes of random chance and calculated business planning. One thing's for sure, rumors and controversies, both real and imagined, will continue to shape the narrative of who's champion, who fights next, and how fans perceive the entire UFC operation. With so many storylines converging, Pereira's dethronement, Ankalaev's low-key dominance, Gaethje's uncertain future, an underlying question emerges. Is the UFC moving toward a new model where the belt itself matters more than the personality holding it? For decades, the promotion thrived on outsized personalities who drew massive PPV numbers. Yet we're in an era where those megastars are fewer and further between. Perhaps the UFC has decided it can flourish just as well by focusing on the brand rather than any one individual. This doesn't mean personalities are gone. It simply suggests that star power might become more of a collective phenomenon, distributed across multiple divisions and fighters rather than concentrated in a single figure. In such an environment, the belt becomes the ultimate marketing tool. Come watch two of the best fighters on the planet clash for the official title of world champion. That line alone sells events, especially when fans know the UFC's track record of placing legitimately top-tier fighters in those title fights. But does this shift come at a cost to fans who love larger-than-life heroes? Possibly. The beauty of a singular star like Pereira, or earlier legends like Georges St-Pierre and Anderson Silva, is that they elevate the entire sport. Their presence draws in casual viewers who might not otherwise care. On the other hand, a deeply competitive division with rotating champions can also captivate fans who appreciate the unpredictability. Maybe the UFC has learned that parity can drive storylines just as well as unstoppable icons do, especially if it keeps the conversation going year-round. In any case, the notion of star power in the UFC may be evolving. Instead of expecting one or two superstars to carry an entire card, the promotion can deliver a variety of compelling matchups, each featuring fighters with different appeals, be it style, background, or personality. That approach might not produce the next McGregor-level sensation overnight, but it could make the brand more resilient. After all, if you don't rely too heavily on a single champion, then losing that champion doesn't topple your entire empire. The dethroning of Alex Pereira may feel like a shocking disruption, but it also underscores something fundamental about the UFC. The machine marches on, regardless of who holds the belt. Even as fans clamor for rematches and dream matchups, the promotion's financial and strategic engines keep humming, poised to break new records and close even bigger media deals. Meanwhile, fighters like Justin Gaethje and divisions from light heavyweight to lightweight teeter between stardom and uncertainty, each storyline blending seamlessly into the UFC's sprawling tapestry. Perhaps the biggest takeaway is that the sport's integrity hinges on letting the best fight each other, even if it means a star loses in a manner that deflates the hype. Real legitimacy comes from matching top contenders, regardless of how marketable they are. When someone like Ankalaev topples a fan-favorite champion, it might feel disappointing in the moment, but it reaffirms the principle that MMA is, at its core, a competition to find the best in the world. As we look ahead, fans are left with a question that resonates far beyond a single title bout. Is the UFC's future bright because of its unwavering commitment to pitting the best against the best? Or is it at risk of losing the kind of stars who elevate the entire sport? The truth might be that both can be true at once. The promotion will continue to evolve, balancing its business realities with fans' desire for epic narratives. One thing is for sure, in this world, everything can change with a single fight, a new contender on the rise, or a champion's fateful off night. So as you follow the headlines and await the official announcements, whether it's about rematches, new title contenders, or rumored controversies, keep in mind that the UFC is bigger than any one champion. In a landscape driven by relentless change, the only constant is the promise of something unexpected just around the corner. After all, it's that sense of possibility, of seismic shifts waiting to happen, that keeps us glued to the screen, fight after fight, no matter who happens to be carrying the belt at the moment.